real estate agent? Are you looking to acquire clients consistently so you can grow your business and your income to live a great lifestyle? This is Dave Finale and the RE Skill Builder Podcast.
Well, hello and good morning to everybody. It is Friday, February 26th. It's a Friday, right? It's a beautiful day. We're in North Jersey and the sun is out and we're happy about that. So I want to welcome Dionte Chantel to the broadcast today. Dionte, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
I'm so glad to have you here to talk about the different things we're going to talk about. But Dionte, I have to tell you that this is Real Estate Talk TGIF episode 141. We've done 141 episodes in 139 weeks. And I want to do a little bit of promo for next week. We have two events coming up next week. We have two broadcasts next week. We have a very, very special guest on Wednesday for a special edition of TGIF. And then Friday, we have Sebastian Russ coming on. We will broadcast both of those guests and start telling about everybody on Monday. Anyway, so you're on TGIF, Real Estate Talk TGIF. Do you know what TGIF stands for, Dionte?
Thank God it's Friday.
Well, normally that would be correct. But in our case, it's actually, thank God it's, wait for it, finale. Thank God it's finale, right? Okay. And it just happened to work that way. Why, I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Now, Dionte, you're in the real estate business. You're a developer. You're all different kinds of things. You're a real estate entrepreneur. And one of the things that caught my eye really when we started talking was you empower urban wealth through real estate. Before we get to that, I want to hear a little bit about your story, about who you are, where you're from. What is motivating you to do the things you're doing? Tell us a little bit about that as I share this broadcast across all different channels.
Definitely. Of course, something would go off in the background. Yes. So thank you again for having me on your platform. Again, everyone, my name is Dionte Chantel. I am a real estate entrepreneur. I love real estate. I've been in the business for over 10 years at this point. I started out as a realtor in New York City doing luxury rentals. And then I transitioned into real estate law. So I was a real estate law paralegal for 5 years. And in that moment, I started seeing a lot of I was doing about 50 transactions every 2 weeks. So I would see a lot of transactions and HUDs, we'll say. And I'm like, you know what? I need to get in on the real estate investment side of things. So ultimately, I signed up for a Fortune Builders 3-day weekend workshop and learned literally a small snippet of what it took to be a real estate investor. And they laid out a blueprint of retiring by the age of 33. And I was sold on that. I was like, you know what? I don't want to work for anyone else. Let me get started. Let me start learning. I didn't sign up for their program, but I took the little nuggets and I ran with it. I did my own research. I educated myself. And the reason why I do what I do is to make an impact. A lot of real estate, people think it's about making money. It's about, just the monetary side, but it's really about building relationships and making an impact in communities. And most of the communities that I grew up in, being Brooklyn and Newark, New Jersey, we've dealt with a lot of, we'll say, displacement. Not so much gentrification, because gentrification is not bad, especially if you're revitalizing neighborhoods, but it's the displacement of families, people not being able to afford to remain in their communities. So me being a realtor, I see that firsthand.
Right.
As a developer, I see it firsthand. And what I strive to do is make sure the people from the community can actually afford to stay in the community while we're also rebuilding the community.
So we talk about that, and there's a word that's used, gentrification, right? There's a word that's used about that. And basically what that has meant is that the people that need the help or need the housing are displaced, right? And I guess this is a really nice way of putting it, right? We've seen this, and I've personally seen it in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and in other places. And that's one of the things that you just said that you want to help with. Talk to me about how that started. I mean, I know what happened in Brooklyn, I believe. Talk to me about what's going on with you with that part of it and where that goes today.
Yeah. So, okay, I moved out of Brooklyn back in 2001 when Brooklyn was still, what it was known for, right? It had its bad parts. It had its very few wealthy parts. But between 2001 and now, it's tons of displacement. There's no affordable housing. I think they just started implementing some type of rent control ordinances. However, because I am a licensed New York realtor, I work hand in hand with a lot of the nonprofits and homeless shelters that people live in. So with that being said, as a realtor, I'm helping homeless families that want to stay in New York, but they can't afford to. And some of the homeless families or people without addresses, we'll say, they're living in shelters. Some of them are working, believe it or not. Like
Right.
a lot of them are working. I had a client that made 80 grand a year and he said he couldn't afford rent in New York. I'm like, what? That makes no sense.
Wow.
But it's true. Like the price of living, the cost of living in New York City, even now Brooklyn, which has some of the highest rent,
Right.
had the highest rent spike in the whole New York City area, is just not affordable. So imagine if you have a family of 4 and you're living off of 80 grand and you can't afford to live somewhere. Like, that's just nuts to me. But that being said, a lot of the individuals that I was helping or relocating, I had to relocate them to New Jersey because New Jersey is still in the transit hub. You can still get to work. It's just that it's much cheaper to live. The rent is at least a third cheaper
Right.
than
Exactly.
Brooklyn and Manhattan. So that's the problem. People are now being displaced. They have to relocate. And some of them are not even homeless because they didn't want to pay rent. It's just they simply can't afford to pay the rent. And they simply also get discriminated against for different things, such as, of course, credit score. You do have some people that I've helped that are, re-entering society from a prison sentence. And they're automatically being disqualified, even if they are making $30 an hour now and have a union contract the job. Our housing laws and system has allowed discriminatory actions or things to take place so people can't live as everyone else.
So you're working with these people. You're working with these displaced people. And how is there a way? Is there a simple way to help them? Is there what's the way that you're helping them? How are we helping the people that are getting displaced? Which is just, I mean, it's absurd, right? They're living for years and years in a place, and all of a sudden they can't afford it, or it's taken from them.
Yeah, we have to be, there's so many different things that we can do, right? But just as if you're a real estate professional, be open-minded about these programs. One, they do pay a commission, so it's not like you're not being compensated. You are being compensated for helping relocate these individuals. Two, if you do know investors or developers that have rentals, I literally had to convince people and motivate them to want to give back and make money, because it's not like you're just giving back. They're not living there for free.
Right.
But just be open-minded about helping a person get back on track, right? And
right.
have the human right to live and cohabitate in a space. So we see that individuals who don't have an address, who are considered homeless or living in a shelter, it's harder for them to move back into an apartment. Because again, once they see that you're living in a shelter, they are discriminating right there. But why did you end up there? I've even had investors say, I don't want those people in my house or in my apartment. I'm like, what people?
What?
Yeah, it's disgusting. And I became very offended, and that just made me go harder. And since then, I have helped relocate over 100 families.
God bless you.
And that's just me by myself, right? I have like a team of others that have done way more than me. So again, be open-minded about who you're helping. The reason why we're here on this earth, I would say, is to help others and serve God, right? That's my opinion. Yeah. Everybody else may not think that. So everything I do, I make sure it's about purpose. It's about relationships. It's about truly helping others. It's not just about the money. And you will get rewarded, of course, but it's not ultimately about the money.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So So, all right. So that's one of the big things you're working on. And you're doing that in other parts of the country, not just New York City and Brooklyn. Is that right? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, well, as a developer, yes, I'm working throughout the United States. My mission is to revitalize urban Black people of color communities throughout the United States, especially because a lot of our neighborhoods are now, once, what do you call that? The OZ legislation, the opportunity zone legislation was passed. You had a lot of developers dumping into these communities, but they don't really mean well of the community. They're just looking to make a quick buck and make out like a bandit, to be honest. That's my opinion. So you do need more developers that are from the communities, rebuilding the communities, because then you'll be able to control the narrative. You can control who moves in the community, how much the rents are going to be, and everything can be done with a purpose. When you just have people coming in, dumping money in there, even though they're rebuilding, they don't really identify or connect with the communities. And I find that, especially in Newark, there's a lot of individuals just coming in, they think they know what the people of Newark need, but they don't. And then that's when you'll have a 2-bedroom in Newark for $4,000, because that's what we have in certain parts of Newark. I'm like, who in Newark can afford $4,000 for rent? So you have to be intentional and be mindful as a developer to really service the needs of the community, as well as, if you're trying to make money. You have to do both, in my opinion.
Okay, so you're talking about a fine line to a point where we're working with opportunity zones, which are a thing that's, I learned about them over the past few years, but there's not enough data back from them, right, to actually make an impact. If we want to look at opportunity zones across the country, I think we have an example of one nearby here down the Jersey Shore, which honestly, I don't think they did a great job in that respect for what they were doing, right? Because we're talking about $1 million homes. We're talking about $1 million condos. Now, how is someone displaced? How is that going to help anybody that's being displaced? It's not going to, right? So how do you prevent that kind of thing from happening?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's going to take, one thing, I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there.
Okay.
Real estate is very political. Okay. So our local officials, our councilmen, our mayors, whoever, right, our planning boards, they have to be very intentional about these developers coming in and what they're going to allow them to do, especially when we're building multifamily units that are like, 50 to 300 units. We have to make sure a percentage of that is being allotted to affordable housing. That's just on the renting side of things, right?
But we want to make enough, though, Dionte, right?
It's never enough. No, it isn't. But in many situations, they don't even make that requirement. They just let them do what they want to do. Even they're pretty much giving land away at this point in the different municipalities. And when I say giving away, you do have to pay something, but it's at a very low cost. So the exchange should be, if you're going to pay 50% off or 90% off for land, you should at least make sure that you're selling the house back to someone from this neighborhood at a lower price. They're even giving away, home funds that discount or is a subsidy for rehab costs. So there's different incentives these developers are getting, but they're not really making it beneficial to the people from the community. So I think there's a balance. Again, when you put in these plans and tell the city, I'm going to build this building, or I'm going to build this house, the officials have the responsibility also to say, okay, how is this benefiting the people that elected us into this office?
Right. I don't think that happened in the example that I didn't give a name of the town to, but we all know what it is, I think. But I don't think that happened there, right? Honestly, beautiful what they did, but I don't think it works. So how do you it's legislated to help people. The legislation is to help. But how do you regulate? Are the regulations in place to actually help the people it's meant to help? Or is it just for the large tax money and the tax dollars that the town looks at and to make it more attractive for more people to live there because the taxes are lower because of the rateables that are coming in.
Yeah, I think in this case, it's only a win for the developer. But it should be a win-win for the community as well. That's just my abbreviated opinion.
Okay, great. Well, let's segue and move into one of the things I saw, as I said in the beginning of the broadcast, was one of the things that you're doing is you're empowering urban wealth through real estate. Mm-hmm. Does that have everything to do with this, or is that tell me what that's about?
I mean, it's everything. Everything I embody or I have experience in this business, it has everything to do with that quote or that slogan, empowering urban wealth through real estate. Real estate through studies has been the difference between why the Black community doesn't accumulate as much wealth as other communities, such as white or Caucasian communities, and even in some cases, Asian communities. So wealth is the main factor. So the more, in the studies, one, in the Caucasian community, because I don't want to do like in the white community, and I want to make sure I'm being politically.
I understand correct. That it's okay. Say whatever you have to say.
A lot of their wealth is being passed down, right?
Yep.
Inherited. We didn't really have that. And if I go all the way back to slavery, which I shouldn't have to, I think we all know what happened. But for those that are oblivious, right? We didn't have anything. We wasn't given nothing. We provided free labor in this country. So a lot of the wealth, one, is accumulated and being passed down in the white population or in the white communities. And they also have real estate as an asset. And their real estate has appreciated, and that also contributed to their wealth. Remember, we were being, they had systematic racism policies in place, such as steering, blockbusting, redlining, all of those things for us not to even get the properties.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, we even had two recent instances where they're under appraising our houses. Okay, so one scenario was, it was a mixed race couple, white husband, Black wife. They had to remove they had their first appraisal. It came in really low. So they did it again, but they removed all of the Black photos out of the house, and the house appraised for almost 40% higher. And then the most recent video that just came out and it hit the news, where Black couple, they had the house appraised, it came in really low. Then they asked their white friend to pose as the seller, and it came in at like over $600,000. I'm like, over the amount it was appraised for. So that just shows you right there what's happening in our communities. They're, finding different ways. And I'm not saying everybody's like this, but it's been instances where they're finding ways to shorten our wealth growth in our communities.
Right.
And ownership is important in our communities. A lot of there are not as many Black owners. It's actually more Black owners in the 1960s or from 1950 to 1960 than it is now. Okay, so you would think the opposite. You would think it's actually more Black owners now, but it's not. And our dollars, our Black dollars, and when I say that is our income that we bring into our communities, it only gets circulated in our communities for 6 hours. When you compare, that's it. Compared to a white community, Asian community, their dollars get circulated in their communities for 20 to 30 days. Crazy. Okay, so why is that, right? For one, most of our income is going to where we live. And if we don't own in our community, right, it's not going to stay there. So if we don't have any Black developers or Black owners in the community, even if you have Black renters, that dollar, their income is paying your mortgage, of course. Right. But again, we don't own a lot of our communities. We don't own anything in there. So with that being said, I'm here, and there's so many other people doing this as well. I'm not the only person, but I'm here to encourage, one, our people to become more knowledgeable about home ownership.
Right.
And even business ownership. It's not just about home ownership, but ownership in itself, making sure you're building wealth, a company that you can pass down, or a business or a house or a real estate empire that you can pass down to your children. Something that they, they'll have the blueprint to, something that is easy and sustainable. Yeah. So
that's fantastic. I mean, this broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, is all about bringing value to real estate agents, and that's really the part of it. And the value you just brought is more of an understanding that what goes on in different types of communities, and the metrics of dollars and what they mean to the neighborhood. Like, for instance, because the businesses aren't Black and they're more white or Asian, that's why the money stays. Is that correct?
Yes.
I got that? Okay. So is there a way to build that up? Is there a way that we as a real estate industry and a community can help in that manner? What can we do to build up that and help with the journey?
Yeah, I think right now, I've seen over the last year, because COVID has been happening for a year, there's been a surge of information just being pumped on the internet. It seems like, at least the people I follow on the internet, they're all doing the same thing. I think a lot of people, and even with myself, like, I just wasn't taught certain things. My dad actually was a real estate investor. He didn't raise me, so I shouldn't know anything, right? But thank God I was able to still learn about real estate, and that seed was sown into me and I understand it. However, it does take an educational component. So I think the schools should be teaching about real estate business, just ownership, taxes, everything that you actually need to survive, not stupid algebra and calculus. Like, nobody needs that.
Well,
nobody needs that. I didn't need it to make money in real estate.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I think you that's an even broader subject about, kids don't know anything about finances or money,
right,
in grade school or high school. I mean, it's ridiculous. And investment to go that step, I mean, that's ridiculous. And you know what? I mean, I give teachers a lot of credit. They do. I mean, they're just heroes, especially more than they ever were now, because of what they have to do and how they have to do it. But in the real estate committee, so let's move on to your project, Journey to DevelopHer, because you've got a Journey to DevelopHer podcast and you've got a Journey to DevelopHer Academy. Talk to me about that, what it embodies and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so Journey to DevelopHer podcast was created during the pandemic. I knew I needed a podcast to get my story out, get my message out. And it's a great mix of God and real estate. Okay. So the DevelopHer part, of course, it's regarding real estate, right? I'm a female developer, but it was also inspired by God developing me as the woman he wanted me to be. There was a lot of things I dealt with, I conquered, and it just made me a better person. So it's really a journey to self-development, a journey in real estate. And we pretty much embody that on the podcast. So some episodes you'll get an investor talking about real estate, their journey. And then some episodes we just talk about the Bible. And great biblical content, talking about purpose, talking about being intentional, talking about just not being in fear and execution, right? Operating in excellence, all of those great attributes the Bible brings to the table. So it's a great mix of God and real estate. So I love it. Now, the Academy, we pretty much talk about purpose, mindset, real estate, whether you're going to be a investor or agent, it doesn't really matter. We talk about my journey pretty much. So since I've been in many different careers in real estate, from being a paralegal, from being a realtor, from being a wholesaler, from being a rehab and now a developer, we pretty much cover everything in our masterclass. So we at first did like a month-long masterclass. Now it's more of a 2-day event. And we give out that information for free just to get you started. Now, of course, if you want one-on-one coaching or training, we have other programs available as well. But just to get you, enthused about what real estate has to offer, we do offer a free academy.
Okay, and that's for Journey to DevelopHer.
Yes.
Right? So the composition of that group, the academy, et cetera, I would assume it's mostly women, right?
No, it's actually men, believe it or not. It's
Really?
men and women. I don't discriminate. It's just the DevelopHer is for me, it's for me. Of course, my ideal client would be a female, because I want to build up other female developers. There's not many of us, and it's a really difficult industry to walk into. So of course I'm open to working with anyone. The DevelopHer is more for me for branding purposes, but we have a lot of men in my personal coaching program. We have actually more men than women right now. So I'm encouraging more women to step up and to rebuild our communities. We are the backbone of the communities anyway.
True.
Not to toot our own horn. And that's in any community, whether you're black, green, orange, white. Any community there's a woman in, we are the backbone. We are the strength. And we build our communities anyway. So if you can literally rebuild it in the real estate space and make a difference while making a profit, I think it's a win-win for everybody.
So talk to me. You mentioned you had to make some changes through quarantine pandemics over the last year, and that's where Journey to DevelopHer came out. Talk to me about your travels and your path over that year and the year before, and where you finally got and said, I need to make these changes. I mean, honestly, Dionte, a lot of people, when it first happened, the quarantine, stay in place, that kind of thing, it was like, oh, what do we do now? Right. Yeah. And what we did is, okay, there was a hesitation, I think, for everybody. And then for us, our group, it was about a week. And then we, relaunched a lot of different things. And like I said to you earlier, before you're on the air, make a mess. We made a mess of everything. Right. But it's worked and helped so many people and changed so many lives. Talk to me about your path.
Yeah, I think quarantine was so necessary for myself and so many others throughout this world. We got the opportunity to be still. Some people didn't like it, but I actually enjoyed it. But I had the opportunity to be still and to really think and reflect on the many things that I am grateful for. I was one of those people that was not scared of what was about to happen. And I know a lot of others that I know and I speak to, they were like in a panic. You had a lot of investors in a panic, a lot of investors hoping everything would just crash so they can go and buy real estate. But for me, it made me realize that, and others, that you need definitely more than one source of income. Like that's having a side business or just an LLC is a necessity. Like everybody must have a company, LLC. I don't care if you're baking cupcakes, make sure you have an LLC for that. Make sure you're organized. Make sure you're not procrastinating. Like I realized how much I procrastinated in 2019. So when 2020 shut down, I couldn't do the things I normally needed to do, right? Or could do. Right. So it just made me realize that, stop procrastinating, get things done, be accountable, of course, operate in excellence, but get started. If I wouldn't have gotten started back in 2016 in this, in this investment space, I wouldn't even be here today because I was never prepared to step into the investment or development space, but get started anyway. So if you have a vision or a dream or an idea, even if you're not ready or organized, get started anyway. Everything will come together. And we had this conversation before we started airing. You'll have the opportunity to perfect it as you go along, but get started. You're never going to be prepared. Trust me. Even when it comes to like anything, even motherhood, I couldn't ever prepare myself for motherhood, but I'm a mother, right? So just get started, plan it out. I would also say, watch who you're partnering with. Make sure you're partnering and communicating with people with integrity. That's so important. And I don't know if I answered the question, but
oh, yeah, that's what I have to say. The whole point really is like, it became more aware and it became more apparent that who you work with and who you grow with actually matters, right? my own story through the pandemic and the quarantine was that I was able to actually transform me and myself to how I helped real estate agents through my business, Real Estate Skill Builder. And I was able to make a transformation of my mind was like a sponge. And I could listen to someone that I heard 40 times before and get something completely out of it differently and be able to really assimilate it, internalize it, and actually use it very quickly to help more real estate agents. Like I said, we basically, there was a big shift. I mean, I actually was, I came back, I was away at my daughter's place in Tennessee for that weekend before everything shut down. And when I got back, it was like I went and things were open. I came back and things were done. It was like really weird. It was like the Twilight Zone, right? As most people know that I do a lot of video, and of course, the times that my daughters want to see what I'm doing, they noticed one time before masks were required, right? They saw me without a mask. They called me up, start yelling at me, stop going there, do this, right? But one of the things we had to do is we had to learn, right?
Right.
And for a lot of people in our industry, in the real estate industry, we learned that, I know Tom Ferry used the word pivot. Somebody else used the word shift. I know that Gary Keller has a book out by the name Shift. And there's so many people now that are so sick of those words, but they're still apropos where people had to do pivots. Yeah. What I saw in our business, I don't know about you, but what I saw in our business was I saw a lot of people waiting and waiting and waiting. And then when things got easier, when they opened up a bit, then they were able to go back out. There was this fear of doing anything, right? My business and what I've taught over the past number of years, and before I sold my business 5-6 years ago, I was teaching virtual real estate, and couldn't get many people to really buy into it because people say, well, why do I need to do a Zoom buyer meeting? Why do I need to do a Zoom seller meeting? Why do I need to send video on houses? Geez, now everybody needs to do that. So that shift had to be made. It had to be made as a business practice, but it had to be made mentally. And the question is, long story, getting to a question is, how do you think that shift or that adjustment in your brain is going to move forward in our business right now? And what's it going to do for you?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing is through doing everything virtually now, we can connect with people across the world. Like, I think someone from I think it was South Africa was actually in the academy. So now that we are virtual, we can connect to more people much more quickly to get the message out, because even if it's in Alaska, South Africa, Jupiter, whatever,
right.
What we're doing here is throughout the universe. Wherever there is an urban community that needs to be rebuilt, these same practices can take place there. So I just think that now everybody was forced to be open-minded, right? I'm even with a virtual brokerage, EXP, like everything is digital on their platform. So I think the future of this is not going to go back. I think everybody's going to be virtual in every business. And for me, it's a blessing because I don't really have to leave my house unless I'm going to properties. Right. And we can just impact more lives. And it helps everyone be more organized, right? You know where you're supposed to be because you have nowhere to go. You don't have to travel to get there. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I know with me is I actually cringe if I have to go out and meet somebody somewhere because, if I have a 1:00 meeting and I have a 2:00 meeting and they both go to term, they both go to the hour, how am I going to get there?
Exactly.
If I can't have a 1:00 and a 2:00 back to back with two different people. We run this, me with my co-coach, my mentor, my shoulder to shoulder guy, Sekou Pyle, run a group called, and it's his group called Commitment to Capping. Right. You mentioned EXP. It's a capping real estate company. It's actually probably one of the most contemporary and one of the most modern business models for real estate agents out there. And our idea is to work with agents to help them cap, right? And you talked about being anywhere and everywhere. The internet, especially through pandemic, has made neighbors of everybody. So we do this call. The reason for this comment, this conversation is that we do this call every 6 nights a week, Sunday through Friday. It's an accountability call. So Sunday nights are our planning call. Monday to Friday is an accountability call with all our agents. We have over 800 people in this group. And at night, it's very typical to have people we're in New Jersey. So New Jersey, South Carolina, North Carolina, Maryland,
nice.
Florida, Texas, California, and Dubai, and South Africa, and UK, right? So our little group has turned international as the way we're helping agents build their skills and it's basically all about prospecting and lead generation and building your business, right? Mm-hmm. And it just shows what you just said, everybody's closer now.
Yes.
Right. And I think what it's also done is it's made people aware of things like this. I mean, this started way before the pandemic, but it's made me branch out and meet wonderful people. I've been so fortunate to have great people, and now I have you on, right? And it's just been a fantastic thing. And when I look at, it's been a fantastic thing, and I will not put aside that it's been tragic as well.
Right.
I will not forget that. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's not what I mean. I mean, there's a lot of agents out there that have sat on the sideline and are still sitting on the sideline that are basically financial difficult. Right.
Yeah. It's hard.
But there's a lot of agents that did better than they ever did in their entire lives. I just want them to keep moving forward. How different do you think when things open up, when we reach herd immunity, which is 75% being vaccinated, do you think things are going to change as far as your business and as far as the real estate business in and of itself?
I mean, for my real estate business, I can only expect for it to just continue to grow. But for the world, I don't know. For the real estate industry, we'll say, who knows what's going to happen? It's a lot happening right now for landlords. A lot of landlords are suffering. There's a lot of just homeowners that are, in default. So I do think the government is going to, once everyone is vaccinated, they're going to ease up on their restrictions.
Right.
Maybe we'll get a bailout. I'm not really suffering in that regard because I always was a affordable housing advocate and I always was a Section 8 investor. So my tenants are paying rents because Section 8 is paying it. However, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I could only pray that these vaccines actually do work and we can open up the world and we can go back to a regular life. And for my business, the need is actually going to be heightened. So I think we're going to need more affordable housing because now COVID set the playing field. It reset everything. Everybody, not everybody, but most people more than ever will need affordable housing.
Right.
So I think there's going to be even more initiatives and more legislations that will be passed to either give out, more vouchers for Section 8 or just make more workforce housing where it'll go by your income if you're still renting. We see that Biden is going to likely pass a $15,000 down payment assistance grant for everyone or for most people. So I think there's going to be a surge of more home buyers out there that are going to take advantage of the right to be a homeowner, right? Because by the time you pay rent, you might as well pay a mortgage. Right. If you buy a multifamily, that's an income property. Of course, those tenants can help you pay your mortgage. So I think the real estate industry is probably going to burst even more, not burst for bad, but it's just going to get more liquid and more powerful. And the inventory is still going to be short, unfortunately. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I can only assume affordable housing is going to be a more of a need, like I said, and more houses is going to be scarce. So right now we have a shortage because it is a seller's market. They're not really foreclosing on many houses. So the recycle is going to be interesting.
Right. It's going to be really interesting because I believe what's going to happen is, the reason we haven't seen a lot of foreclosures and a lot of that stuff is that part of the courts have been closed for a long time. And some of them open up sporadically. So you got that. So there's going to be more homes on the market as time goes on. I think what will happen also, and this is opinion on Dave Finale, this is my opinion, is I believe that there's going to be people seeing that pricing is going to change a bit, right? So when we look at the market and we say inventory is low, and it is, one of the things people are not seeing is that there's been anywhere between a 10 and 20% increase in the sale of homes year over year through this point. What does that mean? Let's look at those numbers, right? January, and that's where my numbers come from January. Now, January was pre-pandemic. So if there's a 10 to 20% increase in the sale of homes, but inventory is down 20%, what does that really mean? We've sold more homes, but there's no inventory. It kind of seems like an oxymoron, so to speak, right?
Yep.
Or catch-22 or whatever you want to call it. I'm not even sure what we're talking about, that. But anyway, my point is this. There's no inventory because it's selling right away. So when you go to check inventory, there's not much there, but it's still there and it's selling. What I believe is going to happen is because of the continual thing, there's going to be a few less buyers and prices are going to come down a little bit. There's going to be a rush to the market. And I believe in 6 to 18 months, we're going to have along with foreclosures and short sales, we're going to have what we haven't seen since September 10th, 2001. We all know what September 11th was. And that was the last time we had a normal market. It's probably 18 months away, but it's going to be, we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff going on in the next 6 to 18 months, in my opinion. And it's going to help some. It's gonna hurt some. But anyway, that's just my opinion. You can comment on that if you like.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. Bottom line is everyone get prepared, educate yourself while we're waiting.
Exactly. So let me ask you, Journey to DevelopHer, you've got podcasts, you've got an academy. The best place for people to get information from you, how do they we have your email on the screen right now. Is that the best place to reach you?
Yeah. Also, I probably should have mentioned this. You can also send a text message to 917-636-7726 and just type DevelopHer. Send me a text saying DevelopHer, and then I'll definitely text you back and give you more information on how you can sign up.
Give me that number again.
The Academy is 917.
Yep.
636-7726.
Great. Let's just save that. See if I can get that up there. There we go.
Awesome.
All right. So there's a couple of things we do at the end of this broadcast, and I want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been really, really fantastic to have you on.
Yeah.
Such a great point of view, and it's something that what you're doing is I sincerely appreciate what you do. How do what would be one thing that you would have to say as your final thought for this broadcast?
Yes. Once, thanks again for having me on here. Everyone, whatever you're doing in real estate, make sure it's not just about the money, as I stated before. Make sure it's about really helping communities and people that may look like you or may not look like you, right? Just make sure that you're doing what we believe God wants everyone to do, is help our neighbors and love our neighbors. And again, most of the time you will get paid, especially as a realtor, to help facilitate relocation services. And as a developer, I don't need to tell you you're going to get money for that, right? But do it with intentionality. Make sure that you're helping the people from the community and get started anyway. So whether or not you know anything about real estate, start educating yourself, start listening to podcasts, start getting audiobooks, go on YouTube. At some point, YouTube is only going to bring you so far. Then, of course, you're going to need mentoring and or coaching. But get started. I literally got started in this business with nothing. I didn't even have a car because I totaled it. I had bad credit. I had a 1-year-old at the time. I was thinking like, how old was my daughter? But, newly single mother. But I got started anyway. I was wholesaling properties on my lunch break.
Oh, wow.
I would literally go on my lunch break to go look at properties and come back. So by any means necessary, keep that fire in you. motivate yourself. You shouldn't, to me, and I think Elon Musk said it a couple weeks ago on Clubhouse. If you need motivation to do something, that means you're not really meant to do it. So you need to just be your own motivator. Of course, seek God for those who believe in God. Everything he wants for us. If he gave you that idea, you can definitely do it. So that's all I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have one other question for you. And with the question we ask at the end of all of our broadcasts, the question is, how can I help you grow your business? What can I do to help you grow your business?
Well, anybody that maybe like-minded, definitely send them on over to me. I would love to collaborate with you in the future, even with my group. Seems like you have a great platform as well. So
thank you.
Any advice you have for me?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's lots we can talk about. The last but not least is I know that we were talking and you decided that you needed to come on this broadcast because you wanted to share your thoughts, but the whole thing was to get a hat. I know.
I need my hat.
You needed to get a hat, and which matches all the logos you've been seeing on this broadcast. We changed a little bit of the set today. Your hat is coming to you. I want to thank you, Dionte, so much for coming on. God bless you. And we're going to go out. Please stay on for a couple of minutes. And we're going to, let's mess that up. Hold on. This technology is really great. I'm pretty good at it, but sometimes I mess it up. So thanks so much for being on. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. I want my hat too.
Your hat is definitely coming.
All right. Okay.